All of this started when I first came across this book, which is written in French by a man called Boniface and was published here in Cape Town in 1829. It's a shipwreck story, and what I found fascinating was that this shipwreck story is written in French at a time when most people in Cape Town would have spoken either Dutch or English. It's a shipwreck narrative about a French vessel returning from India going to Bordeaux that was wrecked on the wild coast in April 1829. But when I started to look at the book, the problem was I wasn't absolutely sure that the shipwreck narrative was genuine, and one couldn't go any further without trying to verify whether it actually happened. Well, we found here in the library in Cape Town also this map, which is a contemporary map, and it shows up here on the wild coast, it mentions the French vessel, the Eole, was wrecked here in April 1829, which gave us the first clue that we were actually dealing with something that genuinely happened. And then we were able to follow that up by finding accounts of this shipwreck that were subsequently published in the Commercial Advertiser. There were a small number of survivors from this shipwreck, and they walked across the territory that was beyond the colony, barefoot, in winter, wounded after the shipwreck until they got to Grahamstown, and eventually from Grahamstown they were brought back to the Cape, where they met Boniface, who, although he was French, he was actually the most important playwright here in Cape Town. And in fact, he wrote and performed in plays, performed just up the road in what is now St. Stephen's Church, that was originally built as the first theatre in Cape Town. His book, the narrative of the shipwreck of the Eole, is also important for bibliographical reasons, because it turns out it's the first book ever published in French here in South Africa. But it had fallen, it's been almost completely forgotten because he wrote it in French. He said he was going to translate it, but he never got around to it. He eventually committed suicide. It's a very interesting character. And it tells us all sorts of interesting things, because these survivors spent a month, just for example, in Grahamstown. And so they give us a picture, a description of Grahamstown, just approximately 16 years or so after Grahamstown was first established. And so, since the book had not been translated into English and therefore was not widely known, I set about translating it with an introduction and notes, and eventually the volume was published by the National Library of South Africa with a view to making better known some of the wonderful riches that are held here in its collections.